is Legends of the Game, where the legends of yesterday inspire the heroes of tomorrow. Presented by Chase Toys, 417 Thorndike Road in Unity.
His story is a classic local boy makes good story. At the age of 5, he's the water boy for the Winslow football team. Later on, he grows up, becomes a teenager, goes to Winslow High School, plays football for Wally LaFountain, then goes to the University of Maine, and then, after he plays football at Maine, starts coaching high school football at Thornton Academy. Then the local boy comes home. In 1985, he takes over for the legendary Tank Violet and turns himself into a legend. 287 wins, 11 regional championships, and 7 gold balls later, our Legends of the Game Today feature is on Mike Siviski.
When you were the water boy, I don't even know what year that might have been, did you think, was it even anything that you could be dreaming about, that you would have the coaching career here at Winslow that you had?
Well, no, not really at that time, but growing up Winslow, doing what you did back then, there was none of this and everything like that. It was the 3 sports. It was baseball, snow was still on the ground.
Yep.
Football season, basketball all winter.
That's right. There was
and that ignites a passion in you and everything, an athletic passion. I think I still have it now.
Yeah.
Underneath, and so I was Dick McGee and Tom Golden's water boy when I was about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, 5, 6, 7, somewhere. So we lived in the vicinity of the field, so sports was everything. Recess, after school, everything. That's just the way you grew up.
Culture of Winslow.
That's the way you grew up.
So when you played at Winslow, then went to Maine afterwards, did you even consider that I'm going to be a coach someday, no matter whether it was here or not?
Well, you know, underneath I wanted to do it, but I didn't know how to go about it.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm saying. And when I look at all the exposure, the career, I was very, I was very well prepared to do what I did when I did it.
Yep.
Then I played my sophomore year, didn't play my junior year, and then Bump asked me. He says, "Do you want to come out or something?" I said, "Gee, I'd love to." And back then my age was a little better. You know, I wasn't behind. I wasn't a 17, 18-year-old playing against 21-year-olds.
You had a little bit of wisdom
like that. But Walt and the recommendations from Ian McKinnon and Bump Hadley, Wally, and other people that I said that enabled me to coach at 2 schools in 2 communities where football tradition is a real big thing. That would be Thornton Academy and Saco and Winslow High. I was exposed to 5 different offenses.
Yeah.
And what I did was year in and year out do the same things differently, maybe different blocking schemes or things like that. But I basically made up my own offense from the highlights of all those other things, and it worked pretty good. And defensively, I was exposed to a lot of things. The defense that I bought from Thornton Academy up here was not played in the Pine Tree Conference.
Which was?
And it was actually a split 6, and people call it a 4, but it was a split 6, and it wasn't a 4. Staffing is everything in football. We've had fantastic staffs here at Winslow. Fantastic defensive coordinators, Jim Poulin, Wes Littlefield, Mike Marson have been defensive, and that allowed me to really expand offensively. Because the first few years I did both sides of the ball. And when I started when Jimmy became defensive coordinator, I did one side. That made a great thing. And we've had great staffs, just to. And you know, it's not the Mike Siviski show.
No.
I think coaching football is one of the greatest team teaching experiences that you can have in education. I'm not a big computer guy, but I've got about I don't know where it is now. I got about a 60, 70 page PowerPoint program on our offense.
Really? Still?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to bring it and have it run off again, but like that. So that was interesting.
Your old dinosaur image.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I know. Well, I'm not a high-tech person at all, but I did that.
287 wins, 11 regional championships, and 7 gold balls. I remember a few years ago when we were here, and they had all of the gold balls on the side of the grandstand there because they were honoring you at halftime, and it took a small platoon of people in order to get them out there. When you saw those gold balls, what went through your mind?
Should be 3 or 4 more. Okay. No, really.
No, you had. Hey, having done a couple of the games that you lost, I can agree with you.
Yeah. So we had like that. It's. I guess the big thing is to stay competitive. So that was good. But one of the things that I'd always do during preseason, when it's 90 degrees or above, and you got to cut down practice and everything, is I'd sit the kids down and I said, boy, it's hot out. I said, you know what our objective is? I said, we want to play when it's cold and dark, okay? Because that means it's November and we're deep in the playoffs.
Exactly.
And so we did that, and we played in the cold and dark on a Friday night at Orono against Levitt.
It gets cold and dark up there.
And it was cold and dark. It was 17 degrees, okay? The wind was 15, 20 miles an hour to add on to it. And I'm so glad, all right, that the water coolers were frozen solid. That's all I can tell you.
The first one, when you won the first one, all right, there's that. There has to be the incredible euphoria. I'm the coach of this team, and delegating the praise aside, I coached this team to a championship.
To be honest with you, the first one, it didn't sink in for a while. I was kind of like in a state of shock.
Yeah.
It didn't. I said, did this really happen? That was just my second year.
How many years in did you win your first one?
That was my second year.
All right, second year. So you're a second-year coach. You're still a young guy.
Yeah.
Boom, you got a gold ball.
Yeah. So, well, it was interesting. It's really interesting.
As somebody who is from the other side of the river, and that's me from Waterville,
I don't know about that.
And try to hold your disdain back for me. As somebody who watched this, broadcasted many of these gold ball games that you won, and again, we're talking about a river separating the two towns. There is such a difference in the fabric, the culture of football here than there was and still is in Waterville, that it's absolutely immeasurable. And I say that as someone, I bleed purple and white. I love my Waterville Purple Panthers, but what you guys were able to do here, and when I say you guys, I'm talking Wes, I'm talking you, talking Tank, I'm talking Wally, everybody involved, Jimmy Poole and all your great assistants. There's something about a Winslow kid, yes, no?
Yeah,
Agree,
I think so, and you can't put you can't put a finger on it and describe tradition, but tradition's there.
Why is it there? Why has it always been there, Coach?
I think.
And did you have to work at it to keep it there?
Well, when the little peewee guys that went to those clinics came to the games and everything like that, they watched and they kind of said, "Gee, maybe someday I can do that," and they do, and they do.
When people look back at the legacy of Mike Siviski here at Winslow High School as the head coach, what do you want them to think?
Just that the kids were well prepared every Saturday, and put your heart and soul into it and see what happens.
At Toro, we know shortcuts don't cut it. Our iron-forged cutting system is the bedrock of machines that get the job done right, season after season. We use thick, heavy steel. More rigid means less flex, so the deck stays precisely on its mark, producing an unmatched, even and clean cut that only comes from a Toro.
Get your Toro Zero Turn at Chase Toys, 417 Thorndike Road in Unity.
He's currently the head coach here at Winslow High School, but way back when, his final year here at Winslow was as a player under Mike Siviski, and we're talking to Coach Wes Littlefield right now about Coach Siviski. So, Wes Littlefield, you only played 1 year for Mike Siviski.
Just one.
Just one. Your senior year was Mike Siviski's first year.
Yeah, Harold Violet had retired.
Yeah.
And Mike came in and took over.
All right, compare and contrast.
Oh, boy. So, my...
Oil and water?
Yeah, oil and water. Harold was such a physical presence. You were so scared of him that you would do anything for him. You'd run through a wall for him. And gave the greatest speeches before games. And then Coach Siviski came in and was really kind of low-key, really an X's and O's guy. really kind of into all of his players as far as, this is your position, this is what you're going to do, this is how we're going to teach you. Really explaining stuff to you, compared to Harold used to use his assistants for that. But Coach Siviski, he didn't. He kind of did it hands-on. And then, boy, his speeches were this: hey, we've worked hard all week, and 5 to 8 second blast, and let's go win.
That's it.
That's it, every game.
What did you learn as a coach yourself at that point from Coach Siviski?
Well, it's kind of funny, right? So when you're young and you're getting into coaching, you think you know something, and the only thing you've ever been taught is your position. So when you get a chance to coach and you start sitting down in meetings and they start talking X's and O's and they're like, yeah, hey, we're going to be in cover 3 here, we're going to make it look like man, blah, blah, we're going to do all these things, and you're like looking around going, I know nothing.
Yeah.
I know nothing. But he was really good at teaching too, teaching his assistants what to look for and what he wanted you to do for his offense or his defense. And at the time, on his one staff, I mean, he had 5 prior head coaches.
Yeah.
So, but he always believed in that though. He believed in you're only as good as your staff. So he believed in that, and that's what I took from him though. Think of the learning that you're going to get for all your kids because they have such great experience.
Ahead of his time, I think, was the phrase you used.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a head coach now, and you've been a head coach at 2 different places for a long time, you're an experienced head coach. Look back on that as a player and then as a young coach about how far ahead of his time that he was back then.
Yeah, I mean, even when he first got here, we were a 52 defense, we ran the wing T offense. Coach comes in and we're in pro, and then defensively we're in his split 4, something that he ran at Thornton Academy, and he brought that in, and we kind of took to that stuff.
He wasn't afraid to change things up, and there's hell of a tradition to come into.
Hey, we were playing a playoff game. We were playing Herman over here, and he had worked on a reverse all week long, and it stunk. It stunk. The whole staff was like, Coach, don't run that play. I go, Coach, what are you going to run for a first play? I was in the booth. He goes, reverse. I go, you're nuts. Goes for 6. Calls the next play. He scripted 6 plays, goes for 6. Next play, goes for 6. We were up 30-0, and we only had ran the ball 6 times. We didn't have a drive. We touched the ball every series 1 time for 6.
Not bad. Pretty good results.
And he stuck with that sheet though, and he had worked that all week.
So he'd stick with his convictions, and the thing that, and I've said it for years, decades, whatever you want to say, I've never seen a better game day coach in those 48 minutes than Mike Siviski.
Yeah, no one ran a better offense between the A gaps than he did.
Yeah,
honestly. So people watching the game like, oh, he's always running up the middle, but you're running trap, you're running midline option, you're running midline trap option, you're doing all these different things, you're running counter folds, you're running B blocks and D blocks. He came up with all kinds of different scenarios to take care of defenses. It was amazing.
In closing here, talking about Coach Siviski, in a sentence, sum up his legacy as far as you're concerned, as the current coach and someone who at least got a year under him.
Yep. Coach Siviski will go down to me as one of the greatest coach to ever coach here at Winslow High School, without a question. And then he is probably the greatest coach in the state of Maine.